How far can we go on our Rad Mini bikes? Well, Rad says you can go 20 to 40 miles. We're going to find out that today and also talk about the tools we carry, the bikes in particular, and how we like them. In our last episode, we were camped at Cattail Cove State Park, which is just south of Lake Havasu in Arizona, and heading 150 miles north to the Lake Mead National Recreation Area in southern Nevada. That National Recreation Area encompasses both Lake Mojave and Lake Mead, which is the reservoir that is backed up by Hoover Dam. Now, most people probably just bypass the recreation opportunities and go right to the dam, but that's a mistake because there's lots of great hikes and biking opportunities in the area, as well as a number of campgrounds. So we were here specifically to get information on the 34-mile River Mountains Loop Trail so that we could take our e-bikes on a test ride of how far they would go. The closest campground to the bike trail is the Boulder Beach Campground, where we had the option of either camping at the facility that is operated by the National Park Service, or the one right next door, which is more of an RV park. It's a private concession. And the prices were significantly different. And the amenities, actually, the National Park Campground was much more attractive, even though it didn't have showers or Wi-Fi. The prices over at the RV park were the cheapest, I think, was $38 for a back-in in the back row, and all the way up to $50 for one of the spots that looked out over Lake Mead. However, there are spots that also look out over Lake Mead at the much less expensive state park or national park campground. Those spots are $20, or if you have the senior access pass, then they're $10. When we drove up to this campground, it's called Boulder Beach, right, John? Boulder Beach, right next to this other RV park. The sign said full, but we drove in anyway, and there were tons of empty spots, so I don't know what was up with that, but don't take the full sign at face value.
Especially on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a Sunday afternoon, and usually these things empty out, so there's my tip of the day. We are heading off on the River Mountains Loop Trail, 34 miles. We are over here at Boulder Beach. We're going to head this way because All Trails shows this is the more gradual climb, and then this is a really steep descent. So we're going to go this way. And here is Lake Mead. One of the things I like to use All Trails for is to figure out which direction to go on a loop trail. Here's the All Trails and the River Mountains trail loop I have here. And one of the things I like to do is to kind of look at the elevation gain. And so you'll do that. I'll go to the map that I downloaded. And so down here, you can see we started right about there where that blue dot is. So I'll move it around. So that's Boulder Beach Campground. Going this direction, you can see it's steeper. And that next dot is, by the way, is the visitor center. And also a little station where they have all kinds of tools to fix your bicycle. But we decided then, because of this, we decided to go this direction on the loop. Here are the waypoints and places where you can park, and then any tips that they've left. So I find that really helpful, and also the weather. You can see that this loop has a 4.2 star rating on the app. And we're topping off the batteries. Here is the start. John has challenged me to ride this little thing. I think it's made for teenage boys, John, not senior women.
Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go. There's the throttle in action right there. Right there's the throttle.
We were young and we were free and running, never bothered about what could be coming. Every day we danced and life was smiling. We were young and drunk in love. A few years later I have started thinking, if it's just love in every glass I'm drinking, we're like one and without you I'm sinking. I'm always shining next to you. Oh.
We added a rest area right along the trail. Good spot for a lunch break. We should have brought our sandwiches up here. There's a little bike parking. This is cool. Got a drinking fountain here. Let's see if it works. Nope, doesn't work. No water. We're gonna stop for a snack. Dark chocolate peanut M&Ms. They're the best.
Chasing payment on my own, 'cause you're here to stay every night and day. I'm delighted 'cause I got you. La 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 la. I'm just fine 'cause I got you. Rain got in my way before, pouring like a waterfall. I've cried a million tears and more to find out where I belong. We're not young, but we're still free and running, and this day has never kept us bothering. Every day we dance and life's been smiling. We're not young, still drunk in love. Oh, I got you, there's no reason to chasing pavement on my own, 'cause you're here to stay every night and day. I'm delighted 'cause I got you. La 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 la. Time is up, nothing
back with 3 bars, but sometimes it would go down to 2. And John came back to with 2 bars, and he says sometimes it would go down to 1. So we could easily do 40 miles. It took us about 4 hours to do the ride. And we stopped and read signs and stopped for a sandwich and goofing off. A viewer asked for us to share more about the e-bikes, so I thought I'd go over a few things. And first, I think I'll talk about the tires. My bike is the step-through Rad Mini, and it came with smooth tires. We spent about, I guess, $40 per tire to replace these. So if you're ordering tires from Rad, or if you're ordering a bike from Rad, you might ask them to switch out the tires before they ship it to you. John's bike came with the nubby tires, which we thought were going to come on this bike as well, but they did not. So that's why we had to do it. So there's a heads up in case you're getting the step through. The other thing we added was the rear view mirror, and John put this on for me at Anza-Borrego. So inside the tire, there's supposed to be some kind of material that helps to prevent punctures through the tire. And then in John's tire, he paid the bike dealer, or the bike person that we go to, paid them to put this green goo in there, and that helps, if you do get a puncture, it kind of helps to slow down the release of air so that you can get home. But the other interesting thing about these tires is they're very low pressure. You only put 20 pounds of pressure in these tires, not like a normal bicycle, which might be 40 to 60 pounds. So that also helps to reduce the risk of puncture. And that's something we are concerned about when we're in the desert, and especially around those teddy bear choyas, because those things have barbs they're just brutal. They do not come with a mount for a water bottle, and with the step through, though, there is an opportunity to put a water bottle, but on John's version, it does not have a place to put one. So he's been carrying an extra bottle in his rack. It also does not come with racks. So if you want a rack, you can do a rear rack, a front rack. I have a front rack that we left at home. It's a little weird because it doesn't move. It kind of moves the opposite way of the tire, so it's a little weird. But we took it off because we were a little challenged getting it onto our bike rack and having them both fit like that. But now that we've kind of experimented more with the bike rack, I think we could probably adjust it so we could still have the rack on there. So I may add the rack back on my bicycle. Oh, there's one thing that we're not real pleased with as far as these bikes, and that is a squeak that we get in the front tire. But if you touch your brake, it kind of goes away. But that's kind of annoying. So I think John, when we get home, is probably going to call Rad or something. I did have my bike tuned up before we left, so it should have been squeak free, but it's not. So we'll look into that more. The bike comes with this seat, which is quite cushioned. But it's not big enough for my rear end. I just have to have a really wide base. So I just switched it out with another bike that I have. So I put more of a tractor seat on there, and that feels much more comfortable for my rear end. Now let's go over and we'll talk about the tools we carry. All right, so the tools that we carry with us on the bike, John keeps them in this bag, and they stay on the bike all the time. And it's basically this little tool, and I'll put a link down below. I'll put it on my Amazon storefront. And this just has an assortment of Allen wrenches and other tools that you might need on a bicycle. Back when I was in my 20s, before I went on an Outward Bound alumni bicycle tour in Scotland, I took a bicycle repair course that was really helpful, and I recommend that you do that if you've not familiar with bikes and how they work. It's really a good idea to do that. So this all fits in here, and this comes apart like that, which is nice. And then here's some more tools that also fit inside. And then this is just a little air, compressor, fill your tires type thing. And it's locked right now, but if you flip it down, you can put some, whoa, and then extra cartridges. And then of course here is a glueless patch kit. So there's that, and then the tire irons that you would need to get the tire off. And of course, you got to have a tube, because we've never come across a store that carries this size tube. It's a 20 by 4, and so you want to carry an extra tube with you, at least in your car, so that you can fix that. The other tools that we carry are down here, but we don't carry those on the bicycle. These are just things that might come up that we might need, and they're carried in our normal RV tool bag. I do want to mention one other problem that we've had with my Rad, and that is that the pedal has come off twice, and so we've gotten somewhere and the pedal is missing, and we've had to reorder it. John's going to call to find out if there's something going on. Maybe we can get some pedals sent. And part of the problem with that is that you have to buy them in pairs, and so it's a bit pricey. So you want to make sure, he always checks the pedals and makes sure that it's the one pedal on the right side, I think it is, and he always checks to make sure it's tight. So if you have a Rad Mini, you might want to do that just to make sure that they're staying on there. It fell off on the freeway somewhere, so you'd hate to have that hit a car and then you'd be liable for some damage. So that's what we carry for the bikes. And yes, I wish somebody made an adhesive visor that you could attach to your helmet, because sometimes it's a little uncomfortable wearing a visor underneath your helmet. But it's something else I need to find somebody to make for me. This is the battery that comes with the bike. It is a 48 volt battery, and it has a 750 watt motor. There are some that you can get in other bikes that are larger, but those might be a different class. This is a class 2 bike, and it has, I think the difference really is the throttle. That makes it a class 2, but we kind of think the throttle is essential in an e-bike. My other e-bike at home does not have a throttle, and I think it's much safer with this because you can take off on a hill without having to get yourself, the forward momentum. But the battery we keep off when we're driving. It makes it that much lighter to get it up onto the rack. But it just slips right down onto this track. Like that. Now, I've been asked how we charge it when we don't have shore power. Obviously, if you have shore power, it's super easy, you just plug it in. If you don't have shore power, then you have to turn your inverter on. And normally we do that while we're driving, because then we don't have to worry about taking the batteries down too far. However, when you have really nice solar, we don't have it right now because we're in the shade, but I've noticed that when we do, they'll draw, with both of them plugged in, it will probably draw, it draws about 10 amps, I think. So what we can do is we can charge it in a couple of spots. If we're just camped overnight, we can plug it in here to these 2 outlets. Or what normally we do is put it into the back of the vehicle and just let them sit there while we're driving. And that usually takes, 2 to 4 hours, depending on how far they've been drained down. But so far it hasn't been an issue. We're normally driving, we don't stay in a place very long, a couple days usually at most. And so there's no problem with charging them. So that's how we charge your batteries. Bottom line is we really like our Rad Minis. They have very much enhanced our travel. In fact, we would not have discovered this place, the Lake Mead National Recreation Area, had it not been for me looking for bike trails. And this is, this is one of those places that's not very far from where we live, but I had never been here. So I think it's going to take us places we had never been before. I also want to say that this is not a sponsored video. I've never had a sponsored video except from our own bank account and the very small amount that I get from the Amazon storefront. So I don't want you to think I'm pushing this on you. In fact, Rad has a program where when people recommend the bike, they get $50 or something like that. I haven't even signed up for that. So there's nothing. This is purely my opinion of the bikes and how much we like them. So if you want any more information about Rad, their website, they're in Seattle. The bikes cost around $1,500, which I think is a real bargain because they don't have any middlemen. So you can check them out on their website, and they ship it right to your home, and they'll even ship into Canada. So that is it on the bikes this week, and I hope you've gotten something out of it. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. What's the matter?
You said don't turn it off until you tell me to.
Cut.
So are you telling me to now?
Yes.
Okay.